PSI report?
No, Your Honor.
No, ma'am.
All right. So we're here for sentencing. The defendant was found guilty by a jury of count one on January 29th. And the PSI, of course, we know the PSI takes 6 to 8 weeks. So we are here now. I think originally the PSI was set for March 25th. And then we were in jury trial, so it was rescheduled for today. All right, State, do you have any witnesses?
We do, Your Honor. State calls Jerry Lorkovich, Your Honor.
If you'll take the stand, please.
And we would invoke the rule, Judge.
All right, the rule will be invoked. Is there anyone here? All right,
There's not, Your Honor. I'm sorry. All my witnesses are outside.
okay. All right. Can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, you can lower your hand, state your name for the record.
Jerry Lorkovic,
All right, and how do you spell your last name?
Lorkovic.
All right, state.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm Mr. Lorkovich. My name is Hank Wilkins. We've met before, but thank you for coming out here today. Where do you live?
I reside at 220 Majestic Grove in San Antonio.
And is the defendant one of your neighbors?
Yes, he's my next door neighbor.
And how long have you lived there?
My wife and I had our house built in 1997.
And how long have you been living next? When did the defendant move in?
I met John, his wife and his 3 children when they moved in. I believe it was the summer of 2012.
And did he have his family living with him?
He did, his wife Vanessa and his 3 children.
And were y'all friendly?
Sure.
You know each other's names, you know each other's families, that sort of thing.
Yes.
Okay. And did his wife and kids, do they still live there?
No, in 2017, his wife told us that she was being transferred to.
Sustain.
I'm sorry, you can't answer. If there's an objection, then the judge sustains.
Gotcha.
You can't answer the objection. So does the defendant's wife still live with him?
No,
And what year, how long has his wife and children not moved next to you?
I believe it's since 2017.
And what's your neighborhood like? Is there a gate there?
There is a gate. There's a total of 47 houses in the neighborhood.
Okay. And how close are you to, is there a school nearby?
There are 2 schools nearby. At the end of the gate of the subdivision across the street is Hardy Oak. It's Lopez Middle School. And then there is Hardy Oak Elementary, which is across the street from that school.
Judge, I'm sorry. I can't hear with.
All right. So if y'all could whisper in the box a little bit, and if you'll make sure that you speak up
Sure.
into the mic so everyone can hear. Okay. Just a whisper. Thanks again. All right. If you'll restate your last answer so that the defense can hear.
Yes, there's 2 schools on Hardy Oak Drive, which is at the beginning, which is at the gate of the subdivision. Lopez Middle School is across the street from the gate, and Hardy Oak Elementary is up the street across from Lopez Middle School.
Okay, how far is it a far drive? How long would it take you to get there?
2 minutes is less than a mile.
And you told me that when did the defendant's wife move out of the home?
I believe it was 2017.
And did you notice unusual activity at the house after that?
Not right away. Probably the summer of 2018 is when we started noticing different things go on. we noticed there were multiple people that had moved into the house. We also noticed that all of the windows in the house were covered. And then there were cameras that were put up on 3 corners of the house.
And when you say covered windows, can you describe that for us a little bit?
All the windows, including the front door, there's 2 side windows. They were covered. There's also some windows above the door, and I believe there's some half moon windows above the original windows that were all covered.
And when you say people moved in, do you know who moved in? Did you meet them?
Did not meet him. There were a handful.
And did you notice unusual traffic coming and going from the house?
Yes, there were multiple vehicles. Some would come and for short periods of time. Others would be parked overnight.
And why was that unusual to you?
It wasn't, it's unusual only because we didn't know exactly what was going on. Didn't know the reasons for people coming and going. When John's wife moved, it was my understanding that John was going to stay there and do work on the house to get it ready to sell. And it didn't appear that any of those or many of those were having to do anything with construction.
And did you ever wake up with somebody on your front porch related to all this?
I did. I believe it was in September of 2018. I have a camera that alerts my phone on my front door. I believe it was 5 o'clock in the morning. My phone alarmed me. I went and looked at it, and there was a girl that I recognized from coming in and out of John's house that had 2 backpacks and was sitting on our front steps, having a conversation with, I don't know who, but she was talking to herself. Then she moved the backpacks and leaned them against our front door. At that point, I got up and asked her what she wanted. She said that
Hearsay, Judge.
Sustained.
So you can't tell us what she said, but how did you feel about that?
a little unnerved. Not sure why somebody would
Excuse me,
be.
I'm sorry, just a second. Okay, all right, you may continue.
A little unnerved to have someone that I didn't really recognize sitting at my front door early in the morning.
Did she seem intoxicated to you?
Yeah, she did.
Did you see, was that the only intoxicated person you saw coming in and out of the house?
It was hard to tell, but she definitely was.
What about vehicles? Was there weird vehicle traffic over there?
Yes, there's several times where vehicles would come and go. There's another incident where it was in the evening. I heard someone raise a raised voice coming from outside. I went and looked. There was a girl probably in her mid to late 20s or 30 years oldish that was outside in John's vehicle. It was a pickup truck. And I believe she was talking to herself. When I went out to see what was wrong, she was trying to dig at and get inside of the dashboard of this vehicle. I believe she believed that her son was in there.
Was there other unusual activity going on at the defendant's house?
Yeah, coming and going again, different cars that would stay for short periods of time and then leave. Some people would stay overnight. Yeah.
Did you ever talk to your neighbor about it? Tell them you were concerned or?
No, we didn't speak a whole lot. But I'm sure that other neighbors, voiced their opinions.
Were you ever afraid based on living next door to the defendant?
Yeah, sure, the fear of the unknown. I know that there were two different instances where Bear County came in and raided the house. So that made us a little unnerved, not knowing what exactly was going on or what was going to happen next.
And why were the cameras unusual to you?
In my career, I worked for an armored car company, and the cameras were very similar to the ones that were used to protect for security in our vaults. They weren't necessarily your Ring cameras. They were much more than that. Two of those cameras pointed directly towards our house. One in the back corner that would point basically towards our pool and our patio area, and the other one on the front of the house that would the front corner that would point towards our house and our patio and our front door-ish area.
And so did you have any concerns about your property value doing some living next to the defendant?
Sure, we're in the process right now of looking to move, and the concern I have is if we are asked about our neighbors and we have that obligation to disclose what's been going on, I feel that that may be a problem with us selling the house and or certainly not getting as high value as we'd hoped.
You're not afraid of Mr. Meyer hurting you though, right?
No.
Are you afraid of somebody else hurting you because you live right next door?
You never know what goes on. And that's, we're probably more afraid of the unknown, and just without so many people coming and going, that you just don't know what's going to happen.
Thank you. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Right, defense?
Mr. Walker, what do you do?
I'm retired.
Retired from what?
I was in the transportation industry for several years.
And you built your home out there in 1997,
Correct.
and then about 15 years later, Mr. Meyer moved in
I believe it was,
and was there, you think, with his wife, and do you remember how many kids he had?
he had 3.
And did you socialize with them?
Occasionally, yes.
And would you come to his house and he come to your house, that type of thing?
I know he's been to our house the night before his wife Vanessa and the children moved. We had them over for dinner. My wife would watch their dogs, and so yeah, there was some cordial back and forth.
I take it that if he came over with his wife and kids, that you knew that they were about to leave. Was it kind of a going away party?
It was.
Were other neighbors there as well?
No.
Just the two families?
Yes.
yours and do you have a wife and kids?
Yes, I do.
And did you have a wife and kids back in the 2012 when he moved in?
The same wife. Yes.
Okay. And how about your kids? Were they raised over there as well?
Yes.
Are your kids about the same age as John's kids?
No, my children are older. They're all out of the house. They're in their mid-30s.
And you said this is a gated community
It is.
and there are 47 houses there?
I believe that's correct.
And or you said that there are 2 gates,
There's one gate.
1 gate?
And
And
then
how do you get in and out of the gate? Do you have a guard there? Do you have a combination? How does it work?
you either have a code or you could do a code on a keypad, or you could use, a lot of people have an automated like a garage door opener that
Like
will.
a fob or something?
Yeah,
So a code or a fob or, it's never just left open, is it?
when it malfunctions, it'll be left open.
And, so if I was gonna go to your house and see you, and I would call up and you give me the code and I could punch in the code and
Yeah,
get it
that's,
open, is that right?
yes.
Thank you. You said that after his wife and kids moved out, that you began noticing some unusual activity in 2018, is that right?
I believe that's correct, yes.
And you mentioned before that you said John was gonna do some refurbishing or some work on his house. Did you understand the extent of that or what was gonna happen?
I believe I was told that he was gonna do some minor repairs and some painting.
And did the people that were coming and going, the people that was, do they appear to be some of them in work trucks and doing some construction work over there?
There was one work truck. There was also like a Penske rental vehicle.
And do you know if the rental vehicle there was for moving people in or people were moving out, or do you know?
Don't know.
And you know that there were other people that were living there other than John, correct?
Yes,
And you said that there were like a handful of people. Do you know if did they move in 2018?
I believe it was the summer. There were a couple that had moved in then.
And did you meet them?
I did not.
After John's wife and kids left, did you ever meet anybody that lived in them?
I did not know.
You said you thought there were about a handful of people that had lived there,
Yes,
and was it the same people that lived there from 2018 or 19, whenever they moved in until, do you know how long they lived there?
I don't.
Did they all have vehicles?
I don't believe so.
Do you recall how many vehicles were typically outside?
It varied. There were usually at that time, probably 4.
So a handful of people and 4 vehicles. Did John have a vehicle?
Yes,
Do you recall what kind of vehicle he had?
I think he had a pickup truck at that time.
And you knew John did some construction work as well, didn't you?
Could you repeat
Did
that?
you know John did some construction work as well?
I knew I don't know if he did construction. I knew he was doing some repairs on the house.
I'm sorry. Did you know that he did that as an occupation?
Oh, no, I did not.
Did you understand what his line of work was?
I didn't know that he ever worked when he lived there.
Did you know what his wife's line of work was?
She was in the military.
And do you know that she and the kids moved when she got transferred, I believe, to Virginia? Did they tell you when you had the party and it was kind of a going away party, did they tell you that she had been transferred and she was moving?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall where she was moving to?
The DC area is all I remember.
And you mentioned that there were, John had some cameras on his house. And then you mentioned that you had a Ring camera at your home, correct?
It's not a Ring camera. It's similar. It's I believe it's Argo, but it's a camera that points at the front door and will alarm if there's motion.
Did you have any other cameras at your home?
Yes.
Okay. And were any of those cameras directed at John's residence?
At one time there was, yes.
And was John aware of that? Do you know?
Yeah, it was more of a to get his attention so that he had talked to my wife about taking, and my wife asked him about the cameras and he said he was going to take them down and never did.
And so you put up a camera or two toward his property?
Yeah, it didn't record. It was just a box of a camera.
Did John know if it was working or not?
I don't know.
mentioned an incident with a girl, a young lady on your porch. I believe you said that was December of 2018, is that right?
Don't know if it was December or September, but I believe it was 2018.
And was there a time where John borrowed your phone to call the police?
He did.
And was that to have them come out and take that girl or another person off of his property?
I'm not sure yes, he did request to use my phone to call police to have someone removed. I'm not sure who that was.
And you mentioned that when Mr. Wilkins asked you if you were afraid, you said that you were kind of afraid of the fear of the unknown.
Sure. With all the people coming and going, you don't know who's coming in, who's going. Certainly was with the 2 times Bear County came in there and raided the home. That's a little unnerving.
Let's talk about that for a second. Were you at home both times?
I believe I was on my way home, the first incident, and the second one I was home, yes.
And were you on the first incident? Did you arrive when the police were still there?
Yes.
Okay. And did you go out and talk to the police?
The first time I don't believe I did.
And the second time you think you did?
Yes.
And those were the only 2 times that the police were out there at John's house, as far as that type of situation was concerned?
Yeah, the police were out there other times, but I'm not sure for what. But those were the only 2 times for that situation.
And that's what you said was most alarming?
Yes.
Okay. And those occurred fairly close together, correct?
I believe August and November of 2022.
Yes. And you understand that those are involved in why we're here today?
Yes.
After John's wife and children moved out, did you continue to have a social relationship with John?
Not really.
Did your relationship just kind of fade away, or just, would you wave at each other? Were you mad at each other? Well,
No, I mean, if I saw him, we'd wave, but there was no social interaction.
no more you going to his house, or him going to your
No.
house, or anything like that? Did y'all do anything else? Did you borrow his lawnmower, or he borrow your lawnmower, or things that neighbors might do once in a while?
No.
Okay, just really no interaction.
Right.
Did you ever go inside of his house to see what was going on as far as refurbishing or fixing it up?
I did not.
When you were at your home, could you hear construction? Could you hear hammers and saws and things like that?
Not really.
When you say not really, what does that mean?
Well, then no. Yeah.
And what is the distance from your home, feet wise, would you say, or yards wise, football field wise, from your house to John's house?
Maybe 50 yards. We all have an acre of land. All the houses in the neighborhood. And most of them are set in the center of the property.
And I guess you're like all of us homeowners, you're kind of worried about your property value, you want to make sure it stays high, correct?
Sure.
Then we'll pass the witness.
Just real briefly, Judge. I just want to make sure I have it straight. Were you most alarmed by the police coming out, or were you most alarmed by the foot and vehicle traffic and the activity going on?
Well, the foot in the vehicle, all the activity going on. I guess the police showing up and raiding the house was a result of all the foot traffic and the comings and goings.
Okay, thank you. No, I pass the witness, Your Honor.
Any follow-up?
Just have to say that.
Sure.
I had just one, Judge. Going back to the gate code and the fob and all that we talked about before, do you know if John had some type of configuration so that he had to go let people in physically at the gate?
I'm not aware of that.
Not aware of that.
No.
Pass the witness, Judge.
No further questions for this witness.
All right, is this witness excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, the rule has been invoked. What that means is you can't discuss your testimony with anyone. The only persons you're allowed to speak to are attorneys for the state of the defense.
Good.
Thank you. State, call your next witness.
State calls Deputy Jorge Salazar. I'll go get him. real quick.
Sure.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Jorge Rios.
Thank you.
You bet, appreciate it.
And Judge, we have agreed to excuse Mr. Lorkovic from the room.
All right, thank you.
You mind if I step back real quick?
Sure, no problem.
Could I address the court too, Your Honor?
Sure.
Now that Mr. Wilkins is back, we believe that the next three witnesses or four witnesses will all be testifying about physical evidence that was seized at the property. And it's our contention, Your Honor, that this evidence was seized in violation of the Fourth and 14th Amendments, Article 1, Section 9 of the Texas Constitution, Article 38.23A, and 1801B of the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure. So we prepared a memorandum on that. We would like to make an oral objection to any evidence at this time, and we can object as we think it's coming in. Would the court like us to orally argue that motion? Can we give it to the court for consideration? We can do whatever the court wants us to do.
Well, I don't know what he's here to testify about. So once I hear that, then you can make your objections, because I don't know what the motion to suppress would be about. I don't know if this is related to a search warrant. It's related to the same search warrant that the court has heard before, or is this related to something different?
It's a different search warrant, Your Honor, but Your Honor is correct, I think, in thinking, is it a four corners argument? And that's exactly what it is. It's a four corners
All
argument.
right, could I,
Yes, ma'am, I have one. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Judge.
oh, no problem. So what I'll need to see then is, you all can offer the search warrant,
I'll do that.
and then I'll review the search warrant.
Your Honor, could I say that we will offer this for the limited purpose of challenging the search and not for the truth of the matter that's asserted in the affidavit, because it's hearsay and it violates our right to confront and cross-examine. So we'll offer Defendant's Exhibit P13, Your Honor, and Defendant's Exhibit P14. 13 is the affidavit. Again, we offer for limited purpose under Rule 105, just for, not for the truth of the matter asserted, but for, so we can make a challenge to the four corners of this affidavit.
Okay.
And may I offer as just an exhibit, Your Honor, for lack of anything better to call it, our objections.
All right, so let me see the actual affidavit. And if you all will also offer the actual search as well. If I can see the affidavit and then what
In the
was.
search warrant?
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
So if y'all will label those two, and since both parties state, are you saying the information that Mr. Stevens wants to give to the court is just related to the four corners of the document. There is no challenge that what the officer said is what he said, correct? We're not going on whether something in the exhibit is false. Am I correct? We're just looking at the four corners?
That's right, Your Honor.
All right.
Could we supply the court with our objections, Your Honor? Our
Oh,
written
just one
objections?
second. Let me read this verse. All right, so the court is accepting into evidence without objection from the state.
No, sir.
All right, defendants P13, and if you all will give me a moment, I'll review it. You can mute us, please. All right, officer, if you want to wait outside for a moment.
Yes, ma'am.
Sure.